design thinking, an introduction to design thinking as we go. So it will be very short, just an intro for beginners. Okay, so what is design thinking? Design thinking provides a solution based approach to solving problems. It is a way of thinking and working as well as a collection of hands on methods. But for now, we won't be using post its because we're on virtual mode. So just follow through. So these are the basic steps. You got empathizing, you got defining, ideate, prototype, and test. So these are the five basic steps to design thinking. So we'll go through it quick. Okay, empathize is to empathy with the user. So empathize is different from sympathize, who we have to uh, put ourselves in the shoes of the user and what do they feel, who are they. You have to make a user profile. Is he age 33? What's his occupation? Is he a GP driver? The gender is male. He's located in Quezon City. He's married. Does he have kids? So the deeper you go, the better. So you have to empathize with who's going to be your user. So there are a lot of tools that can help you out. You can do research. There's market research that you can download. There's surveys and reports from different agencies. Some have payments, some are free. So it depends how deep you can use those and empathize with your user, and then maybe you can do some field research on your typical user to create that story and that persona that you want to amplify and get uh, what are they like and how are they living. So for exercise, you can do assumption settings. For example, it's third month of ECQ. Build a persona on the following: a business owner who owns a restaurant, a student who needs to go to school, and a jeepney driver needs to adapt to COVID-19 situation. So considering that there's a lot of changes happening, how will the user be able to adapt to COVID-19 and what are the things that they need? You have to build a persona and then name that business owner, name that student, name that jeepney driver. Could be Maria, could be Juan. So you have to build who is this type of character person, and you have to draw what they look like and put it in your mind. Next is you need to define the problem. What is the current problem of the user? You have to put down the notes. You have to make some notes here. And for example, you have the current situation is um, passengers in the jeep are very dense. They're sitting to each other. So the virus could be able to spread to other passengers and they don't have masks, so protection. So you have to define this problem, this current problem. It has to be specific, well defined, clear, and ambiguous. It has to be measurable. How do we measure this criteria? And how do we measure our progress towards accomplishment of the goal? Next is should be achievable, attainable ba to, or not impossible to achieve. It should be realistic within reach, realistic and relevant. Should it should be doable and timely with a clearly defined timeline, a start date and a target date. So kung umpisa ka ng March 2020, dapat by July 2020 tapos na siya. So the purpose is to create urgency. So remember, smart, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. Next, brainstorm and include the user. O include natin dito ano yung mga pain points ng current system, what product features do you want, and then you can create some user stories. So dito sa user stories, must define one is able to pay cash to the driver without passing it to the other passengers. One is able to distance himself from other passengers. One is able to get on his stop safely. And so these are just examples of user stories that you want to create. For the pain points, you can go macro and micro. What are the things that's happening with government, not available transportation, store on those things. Product features, maybe you can include this in your app. Moving on to the next. So yeah, prototype. These are basic features. So the prototype is a minimum viable product. I'll call it the MVP. It's not perfect, but a working prototype with the basic features. It doesn't have to be super beautiful or nice, but it has to be it has to be working. For example, we have electric car prototype. It should have batteries. You should have four wheels, steering wheel, a gearbox, brakes, front lights, rear lights, and one seat. So it's just very basic, but it works. So if you want to add more features, you're gonna have to go on to the next phase on that one. Also, you need to design the wireframe. The wireframe is something that what it's gonna look like. Maybe it's on an app, and you can put there the major steps. You can download the app. Here's your email address. You gotta start selling your product on the app and collect the payment by Gcash or Paymine. So you got to put the major steps here, so you have some idea of the end-to-end product. So flowcharts are helpful and useful for this. You can put the steps across along the way and discuss this with your team members. So flowcharts are useful for that for the prototype. And lastly, schedule tests with select users. So test the product. So select kayo ng mga users for your beta users. So who can volunteer to test your product or your system. So mga beta testing, you can select is it male, female, is it kids, who's going to use your prototype. Let them test the prototype, and then for example, this is the electric car and it has to go up a hill. And if it does, you get user feedback on the experience of the features. Are they happy or not with that prototype? So those are the basic things we have with design thinking. Empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. Thank you guys.